Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Bell MTS Place. This is a Jets TV Live pregame show. Special guest, Gene Principe of Sportsnet. Before we get to you, Gene, just some notable players out in the ice. Out of the non-contact yellow jerseys, Matthew Perreault, Joel Armia, and defenseman Dmitry Kulikov. So possibly some lineup changes on the way for the Winnipeg Jets. Before we get into those types of things, Gene, there's always, with these Stanley Cup playoff runs for Canadian hockey teams. You were there in Edmonton in 2006. You were part of the Ottawa Senators run in 2007, the Canucks in 2011. Is each one of them different in certain ways, but also fun? Yeah,
I think you hit it, hit the nail on the head, Jamie, and thanks for having me on Jets TV. I sat in here the other night, and I just kind of soaked up the feeling and the atmosphere and the vibe, and of course, all around this area. I was out just at about 9:30 or 9:15 this morning, and the barriers are going up and they're getting set for the whiteout. They are all special. They are all different. As much as we're all Canadians, we treat our teams the same, but in a different sort of homey kind of way in each of these cities. 2011 was incredible in Vancouver. Seeing a team look like they were going to win the Stanley Cup. Edmonton in 06 kind of, they had to chase it, but once they caught it in Game 7, I think, some people thought they would win in Carolina. Ottawa in 07 was a bit different because they really, made it to 5 games, so it didn't quite get to build up to a 6 or a 7.
They were underdogs big time against Anaheim
against Anaheim, and then Chris Pronger was on that team, and J.S. Shiger and Scott Niedermayer. So it was a real who's who. And I'm sure we'll talk, speaking of great defensemen, I know you got a lot on the Winnipeg Jets, so they are all special. And what happens when you go to other cities, and I work in Edmonton, and you see how things go in a town like Winnipeg, you think, wow, boy, do I miss it being in that city. And same with fans, they miss it because they see it on TV. Some will travel here to experience it firsthand, but it's hard to put into words what hockey, what playoffs, what Canadian all works when it's put together and you get into May, and if potentially you get into June. It's something everyone should experience, whether you're a hockey fan or not. Yeah, when you worked here at Global Winnipeg, part of Darren Millard, there's a long, illustrious line of guys. He was my roommate. He lived in my basement. Finally, I let him out. He deserved to be in the basement. There's no question about that. Nashville wasn't even the league when you worked here. So, what was it like covering the Jets 1.0 at that point? It was great, and I must say my wife's family is all here, so hello to them. And I have a cousin here. And her husband, Dan, Patens is, season ticket holders. They're season ticket holders. It's great to be back. People are, friendly Manitoba on the license plate. It's not a mistake. Right, no question about that. There's a reason for that. And when I come back here, whether it's, say, remember working with Joe Pascucci, the Scooch, back in the early to mid-1990s, or whether they, watch Sportsnet and still get a chance to see me, people are great. They make you feel like it's your second home. When I'm originally, born and raised in Edmonton. Back then it was Teemu Selanne was on stage. What a horrible time to be here. Yeah, Keith Kachuk, Phil Housley. They had traded Dale Howardchuk for Phil Housley. Right? Alexei Peanut Butter and Jamnov was here. So, it was, Eddie Olchuk, goalie Bob Essence, Tim Cheveldayoff. It was a great time. The team was a real underdog. They were just kind of pushing to make the playoffs. But that old Winnipeg arena, the whiteout from back then, it was great. It's a great city. It's a great city for hockey. And I want to get this out there. I think one of the things that we see here, we've seen in Edmonton, to a lesser extent Calgary, Edmonton and Winnipeg are two cities that get painted with a certain brush that makes us feel, and you went through it this year with the San Jose Sharks, it's cold, it's dark, and then it's cold, and then it's windy, and then it's dark, and then it's cold. But it's not like that. The winter's the winter. I've been in Minneapolis. It's been cold. I've been in many cities. It's cold in the winter in many of the 31 NHL cities. That was pointed out by Paul Maurice, too. It's winter. Yeah, it's winter. That's what happens. But I tell you what, any unrestricted free agent out there or any kid who's going into the draft who sees this city, who sees the whiteout, who sees Dustin Byfuglien and Jacob Trouba, and sees Blake Wheeler, and sees Mark Scheifele, and sees Patrik Laine, and sees Nick Ehlers, and says, I don't mind going there.
Right.
I'd like to go there. And so, and I think Edmonton has done that as well. You know, they've had a helping hand, obviously, with Connor McDavid in a new building. But I really like that because I think that's the big picture. Small picture is winning tonight, winning this series. But big picture, I think that what's going on now is going to have ramifications this summer, next summer, and so on.
Well, on Chris Pronger's note, you saw back-to-back Stanley Cup runs with him in Edmonton in 06 and then with the Anaheim Ducks in 2007. I'm not comparing Dustin Byfuglien to Chris Pronger because they're very different players, very large players, but they both have impacts on their teams at this time of year. What have you enjoyed about watching Dustin Byfuglien this time around?
Well, I'm glad he's not running me in the corner.
Right.
He is, you know, I don't know if there has ever been or will ever be a player like Dustin Byfuglien in the NHL. I mean, you have to look at his size. And I remember, you know, covering him in 2010 when Chicago was in the Stanley Cup final, and then that was kind of where people started to notice this guy. And I just thought, wow, what a makeup of a human being who happens to be on skates. He's big, he's tough, he's rough, he's skilled, he can play with finesse, he's intimidating, he has an incredible shot. He's got a great hockey IQ. He's a leader. I mean, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few things too.
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean, it's incredible. And I look at the Jets' defense, and I just think, what a defense. And I mean, I really still feel like you got to have great blue liners to have success in this league. And Nashville's a perfect example of that. And I just think with Dustin leading the charge on that blue line, this team's in really good shape.
Let's go back to Timo Solani for a second, and it seems like you were here during his heyday. Sami Niku, who's a prospect for the Winnipeg Jets, plays for the Manitoba Moose, told me that Patrik Laine is getting up there in popularity, almost surpassing Timo Solani in Finland right now.
Wow.
So we're not comparing teams, but great Finnish players. And watching Patrik Laine now, and you've seen him quite a bit through your time with the Oilers and broadcast and so on and so forth. What have you thought of him?
I like him a lot. I mean, I really, first of all, I like the kid. I like the kid. I don't know him, you know, really well, but the little bit that I've seen and heard and read and watched, I like him. I mean, I think he's got kind of the right personality for a young guy with lots of pressure on him to be an elite goal scorer, a 50-goal scorer, which I'm certain he'll get to maybe as soon as next season.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like the way he handles himself, and he seems to me very confident, but never have I thought of him as being cocky or coming across like, oh, he thinks he's, you know, better than all that. Not at all. But I see a guy who believes in himself, and what I really like, listen, we all know he hasn't scored in a while, but you can't tell that by being around him. And he made the great pass to Dustin Byfuglien the other night. I mean, you know, I like that kind of quiet confidence in him. And this guy has got a shot and a half, or 2/3 or 3/4. And I think that, you know, the mantle's being passed from Ovechkin. You know, he's not quite ready to step aside. But I think you're going to go from a great goal scorer like Alexander Ovechkin, and as he starts to wind down his career and Patrik moves into his early mid-20s, then he's that next guy that you think this guy could win the Rocket Richard Trophy 1, 2, 3, you know, maybe 4 times in a row.
Are you going to the Jets room today? Is that your responsibility?
I will be in the Jets room today, yes.
The long whistle just happened, so momentarily that room is going to be opening. So I'll throw one last one out for you. You've also been in the Predators room. What are they feeling today, do you think?
Well, I think that if Winnipeg was playing almost any other team, I'd say game, set, series, and match. I just feel like, you know, when I watch Winnipeg, they're so big and so skilled and so strong and well coached. And I just think that if it was someone else, I'd say, you know what, I don't like their chances. But you know, Nashville didn't get to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final last year without going through some difficult times.
Yeah.
And I like their leadership group. They've got a great blue line. I think that, you know, people are starting to not wonder about Pecorino, but it's been a lot of goals scored against him. His defense has been quite adamant in defending him and saying, listen, we can't give up those quality chances like we've been giving up. So I think tonight, in my opinion, whoever wins tonight's game wins the series, will go on to win the series. I just think that whether it's Winnipeg winning, the momentum be so strong they can't be stopped, or Nashville winning and stopping the Jets' momentum, that when they go back, still could take 6, well, it'd take at least 6, maybe 7, but I think tonight's winner is the series winner, in my opinion.
Gene, great to catch up with you. Thanks for doing this.
Good to see you, buddy. Great job, all right? Keep it up.
Gene was talking about how the Jets have done a great job putting each game behind them, but they bask in the glow of winning Game 3. Let's hear from them right now.
Wheeler back up top of the right point of Byfuglien, back to Wheeler. In for Scheifele, big save. Rebound, score! Blake Wheeler!
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. I mean, obviously not the first period we wanted, but had a heck of a second period. There was a ton of action, ups and downs, goals for, goals against, but just a huge character win by us coming back and finding a way to be resilient after a tough first period, and you know, that's something we can really build off of.
We talk about enjoying the pressure, enjoying the day, which sounds silly, but you gotta love this. You gotta love the pressure. You gotta love the games, the excitement, and then handle what's in front of you. So the first period was in front of us. We had to learn how to handle that. The loss was in front of us. So now we have to, you know, it was an unusual win in the playoffs. We have to learn how to handle that too. I want them in a good mood today. Like, I want them feeling good about their game, because you need it all. It all goes to, I think what I said yesterday, it goes to belief and confidence, right? Every time you win a game, you get a little bit more belief. Every time you lose, your belief takes a little bit of a hit. So you have to absorb some of the happiness from a win and keep it.
I don't know if they're going to play desperate, but they're definitely going to bring their game, and they're going to play hard, and that's what we expect every single night out of these guys. There's no quit in either of our games, and you know, that's what we like about this series. And I think the NHL's getting everything that they want: a lot of offense, and you know, a very exciting game to watch.
It's either going to be 3-1 or 2-2 when we go back to Nashville. So it's probably better for them if it's 2-2. So they're going to be coming hard, especially at the start like yesterday. But we just got to be ready for that and skate hard for 60 minutes, and they're not going to queue up with us.
Laine again, right wide shot, score!
He's got that ability to take games over, and when he's feeling it, you know, he's one of those guys that can be unstoppable out there. You know, not just scoring big goals, but making big hits. And yeah, I mean, you saw last night, he was a force out there.
You can tell, you know, when he's on the ice, you know, guys on the other team, you can see they're aware. They know when he's coming down on them, and you know, he's a big force for us.
You know, he's been there before. He's won the Stanley Cup, and he's been through all the ups and downs of what that's like. And you know, to see him, you know, come in, you know, between periods and still be loose and you know, just telling us to believe. You know, that's big coming from him. Everyone listens to what he has to say, and you see a guy like that still relaxed and confident that we can come back in that game and then go out and be a leader and be a threat out there. You know, that gets the whole team going.
For a guy that hits, and I'll make my case now, as cleanly as he hits, you don't see the hands. Right? There's not a lot of guys that size that hit like that also have really pure hands.
Of course, this is a Jets TV Live pregame show. The Winnipeg Jets taking on the Nashville Predators tonight in the second round series, Game 4, with the Jets leading 2-1 thanks to that 7-4 victory over top of Nashville on Tuesday night. If you're just joining us, just some news, some 3 players out of the non-contact yellow jerseys. So defenseman Dmitry Kulikov, forwards Matthew Perreault and Joel Armia. Armia and Perreault both wearing blue, Kulikov wearing red. So a possibility 1, 2, I would say at most 2 tonight could be in the lineup for Game 4 against the Nashville Predators. The Jets with a chance to take a 3-1 series lead. We'll have more on that a little bit later when we hear from head coach Paul Maurice in the Matt Frost Media Center, which we'll bring to you live here on the Jets TV Live pregame show. Now, Steve Mason, of course, will back up Connor Hellebuck this evening, and it's been well documented this hasn't been the most fun season for Steve Mason his first year in Winnipeg. 2 concussions, a couple of lower body issues, and because of all that time off the ice, he developed a very close relationship with the training and equipment staff for the Winnipeg Jets this year. We spoke with Steve Mason about his brand new mask that he got earlier this week and the people that are on it. Steve, you have a new piece of equipment going on here. Tell us a little bit about the idea behind the mask and how much work it went into it.
It's kind of, it's been a work in progress ever since I switched models of mask to an updated version to what I was wearing. So I needed to get, you know, a game helmet and a backup. So this is the second mask that finally came in here, and over the years, you start running out of ideas of what to do on a mask. So I'm trying to keep things lighthearted, and through the trainers on the mask as kind of a thank you to all the work that they do throughout the course of the season, and obviously for my year being hurt so much, spent a lot of extra time with them. So just a fun way to say thank you and get some good-looking guys some airtime here. So,
who looks the best in your mind of all the artwork?
It's such a hard decision. It's probably the guy behind the cage actually that looks the best. But I don't know. It's if you look at the portraits that these were copied off of, it's pretty accurate. If anything, she could have had a little stubble on to give him a playoff beard. But no, she did a good job.
How did the guys react when you told them about it, and then when they saw the mask?
Yeah, like I said, it's been a work in progress for probably close to a month and a half. So ran it by Jay just to say, hey, is it cool if we do this? And he was all on board with it. So the rest of the guys, when they saw it the other day, had a good chuckle, and it turned out pretty well.
Which one of them thinks they look the best on the mask?
They're also humble, so they never choose themselves. But I don't know, like. When you see it up close and personal, it's pretty accurate at what the portraits were. So they all look good.
How long have you been working with this artist, and has she been around with you throughout your career?
No, this is actually the first year that I've used her. For the longest time when I was in Philly, I used a local guy there, and then I made the switch, obviously, to Winnipeg this year, and tried a new painter out, and it's worked out extremely well. This is the second mask that she's done, and this one's by far got the most press out of it, probably because of what's going on the design, but we'll continue using her in the future here.
I've always wondered with gold masks, when you first receive it, it's almost like Christmas when you open the box, waiting to see what you get.
Yeah, it's that's basically probably the main reason when I was younger that I became a goaltender, was to have that unique feature of having a painted mask, and turning 30 here at the end of the month, and still get excited to see a new paint job. So I'm always on Sylvie for pictures and things like that, and even on a picture, you're still excited to see when it gets out of the box.
Is it one of the more underrated relationships in sports, is players with the training staff and the doctors and so on and so forth?
100%. Nobody sees what kind of goes on behind closed doors, but these guys that we have here are first class. They make coming to the rink and spend so much time at the rink and on the road, a lot of fun. So, like I said, it's kind of at times a thankless job, but the players in the locker room realize what kind of important role that they play in the day-to-day, doings of being in the NHL. So, something like this, is simple to do, but I think it goes a long way as well.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
We didn't mention him in the one-on-one. Steve Mason, shout out to him as well for being so open and very funny in that one-on-one interview with the Jets netminder. We should also mention the members of the Jets training and equipment staff that are on the mask. It's very eerie how much those paintings or the drawings of them look exactly the same as them. Jason McMaster, Mark Grehan, Rob Millette, Brad Shaw, Mike Flaman, and Al Pritchard, the 6 gentlemen featured on Steve Mason's latest mask. The artist, of course, is Sylvie Marsolet. She also designed the mask that Andrei Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning wears at this moment. She has other clients as well, but we can agree, just an incredible job done on Steve Mason's mask, and you got to love the message and the shout out that he gave to the 6 members of the staff, because you can imagine all the extra time that Mason spent with them on the road, off the ice, in the dressing room, but it's a really nice job from Steve Mason, giving them that kind of recognition by putting him on his mask. Blake Wheeler, the captain of the Winnipeg Jets, is on a 6-game point streak. It's been a very quiet 6-game point streak, you can believe, because so much attention has been paid to his line mate Mark Scheifele, Connor Hellebuck, others stealing the thunder, and Dustin Byfuglien. But he's got 9 points over that 6-game point streak. Let's hear now from the Jets captain in the dressing room.
It's time since Game 1 in the Minnesota series. What's the biggest thing he brings back to this group?
Plays a lot of energy, so good to see him feeling good.
It seemed like you guys were having a good time to start out there. Would you say that this team is gaining confidence as the series has been going on?
No, I don't think anything's changed. I think we've been loose and focused since playoffs started. Nothing's changed. Pre-game skate's always the same. How we prepare is always the same.
Come off that
tough one in double overtime and you have to park it. And yesterday, 2 days ago, a real big one. You got to park that. Is that easy to do, different to do when the results are so different?
Well, you have to. There's going to be swings and emotions both ways throughout this this time, and you just got to manage it. Do the same things consistently over and over again, similar to what we've been doing all year.
One team is already on the challenge, not just in the playoffs, but throughout the regular season. You've played that team a number of times now, I think 8 times this year. What have you noticed about their ability to rise to the challenge?
Yeah, they play the same every night. You know, it's fast, it's in your face. They wear teams down. I mean, you can see why. You know, they had a lot of come from behind victories this year. They just consistently do the same things over and over again. So it's a great challenge because you got to play them hard for 60 minutes. You know, you take your foot off the gas, and I mean that's where they caught a lot of teams this year. Yeah, you know, we just try to focus on playing fast. You know, allow our defensemen to be aggressive. There's nothing more frustrating than having people in your face, so that's what we try to do all game.
Talk a bit about how the Connor and Nick Ehlers switch sparked the team, if not just your line.
I think it sparked those guys a little bit, just a little bit of change. You know, it's great to see 2 young guys respond. You know, you never know what's going to happen. Change things up, and you know you can feel bad for yourself. And I think both those guys rose to the challenge.
After maybe a loss or a win?
I don't think so. I think always when it's a new game, it's we're starting from a clean table. There's no momentum from the last game, and both teams are equal. And I mean it's good for us that we won the last game, so we're obviously feeling good about our game, but we know that when we lost in Nashville, we wanted to come out hard after we lost, and so we know that they're going to come hard, but we just gotta be ready for that.
What do you take most out of that final 40 minutes from Game 3 into this one here tonight?
I think just the way that we were skating and playing with speed, and I think our gaps were really good. We didn't give them any free ice to skate on and play on, and I think that those are the couple of things that we need to execute tonight and be better at that one. Well, I'm happy with my game right now. I think overall, I think I've been playing pretty well, even though I haven't scored in a while. But you can still do a lot of good things on the ice, even though you're not scoring. But I just try to have a shooter's mentality first and shoot as many pucks as I can, and hopefully 1 or 2 are going in sometime soon.
There is Patrik Laine of the Winnipeg Jets. If you remember that sizzling pass he sent across to Dustin Byfuglien for the tying goal in Game 3 of the series on Tuesday. Watching Laine throughout this series, you can tell he's getting closer and closer. Of course, leading up to the series, didn't practice a whole lot, but you can tell the opportunities are getting there, and any coach will tell you, especially Paul Maurice, if the opportunities are there, that means they're getting close and there's no concern, especially with a player Patrik Laine's stature. Has not scored a goal since the second game of the series against the Minnesota Wild. Remember, had 82 goals as a teenager, including the playoffs, leading up to when he turned 20, which is just after Game 2 of the Minnesota Wild series, the opening series of the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets. Just a reminder, for any fans who can't make it to the game, we're excited to announce that Boston Pizza is our official playoff headquarters. During all playoff games, visit any Winnipeg Boston Pizza location to catch the action for a chance to win tickets to an upcoming playoff game. That's if you can't be here or outside of the building. I believe it's supposed to be much warmer outside this evening, so if you're choosing to be part of the street party, good for you. That's good news because you won't be as cold as you were the other night, although I highly doubt that you were noticing the elements, considering how highly entertaining that game was. But Boston Pizza is certainly a good option for you at this point. You know what? If you haven't been taking an opportunity to take part of the street party, well, we're going to bring that to you. Jets TV has this presentation, and it might make you want to be part of the street party. Here's a look.
with Sherratt, and they both went down. Subban, D-to-D, Ekholm to the net, a deflection, a loose puck, they score!
And the only one who saw it early on was Fisher, and I think he got to it first before Salomaki did.
It'll be Fisher's goal. Could have been Salomaki. They both saw it before any of the Jets could. Up the boards for Laine to start a breakout. Wait wide. Here's Nikolai Ehlers. Stastny's with him, just onside. Stastny alone, stopped by Rinne. Josi clears the puck away. Johansson again, cross ice, Forsberg. Subban still won't shoot it. Now he drops the puck off. Forsberg to Johansson. Arvidsson is a preoccupation in front. Subban shot, he scores! It trickled through Connor Hellebuck. Into the attacking zone, straight up the middle. Too many Predators there. They're about to go on the power play as Watson returns. Here comes Arvidsson to the net, stopped by Hellebuck. Boy, he needed to make that one. Long pass, went off the stick of Wheeler, so Ekholm got it and was able to clear the puck. Winnipeg caught on a change there. Watson moves in, he shoots, he scores! Posted in.
Penalty. Watch the change happening here as Myers and Sherratt think that the play's going deep. Instead, it's back the other way.
Trouba holds the puck in with a shot. Scored! That was in the net and out. Paul Stastny put his arms in the air to celebrate a goal. I think that's in the net and out.
Another example of just get the puck through to the net. Watch the leg. Yeah, right off the left leg. Not a kicking motion. Just try to box him out. Fisher loses him for a split second. And here's the call.
Little had done a nice job on Ekholm. Here's Tyler Myers. Has he ever fired up in this second period? Skates the puck to center. 2 on 3 in the middle for Little. Here's Byfuglien. He shoots. He scores!
And this crowd is finally able to get on its feet.
Think about it. It really should be a tie game right now. Here's Stastny to Wheeler. Side of the net. Score! Salomaki in with a hit. Poked ahead for Blake Wheeler. Trouba jumps up and joins him. He's got Scheifele over on the left side. Wheeler cuts into the middle. Poke the puck loose. Here's Wheeler. Shoots, and he's stopped by Rinne. Connor again. Last minute of the period. Twisting and turning. Had the puck poked away. Mike Fisher goes up the boards. Ryan Ellis in some trouble. Here's Laine. Shoots. Rinne stopped him. Stastny to Laine across the ice. Score! Byfuglien has another.
So now you've got a play out of the corner. There's the nod call. You're thinking shot. Rebound comes back. You're thinking another shot, but man, he can also pass the puck.
Back to the blue line. Enstrom in deep. Connor read that perfectly. Side of the net. Laine hit the post. Scheifele battling in the corner. Gets the puck back to Laine. His pass across to Wheeler. Back to the blue line. Here's Byfuglien again. Laine, one-timer, and Rinne stopped that. On the right side, Johansson walks in, looking for Forsberg. Arvidsson's parked in front. Craig Smith in the slot. Forsberg goes to the right side. Takes a shot. He scores! Protected the puck against the boards. Now goes out to the blue line. Here's Jacob Trouba. Poke check. Arvidsson skating away in alone. Stopped by Hellebuck. Here's Scheifele. There's Byfuglien again. 2-on-1 with Ehlers. Byfuglien shoots, and that's gobbled up by Pekka Rinne. We'll look for Scheifele in the middle or Stastny down low. He can also go back to Byfuglien, and he does. Wheeler again. Scheifele shoots. Great save. Another shot. Score! Blake Wheeler gets the goal.
He does a great job of showing patience first. This play has happened so often for the team, but the rebound from a bad angle.
Again, Jets can't clear it. Ekholm fires a shot. Big rebound off Hellebuck. Into the corner, Craig Smith. Stick is chopped out of his hands, and Wheeler gets a hold of the puck, and he scores! Ryan Ellis trying to hold the puck in. The net is empty again for the extra attacker. From center, here's Brandon Tanev. Drives wide, takes the shot, hits the empty net, and it's 7-4. Jets are up 2-1 in the series. Quietly seated late in the first. but standing and waving the towels in the whiteout through the second and third period. A 7-4 come from behind victory for the Winnipeg Jets to take a 2-1 lead in the series. 13 consecutive wins on home ice.
Man, still getting chills from the memories of Game 3 here at Bell MTS Place. So loud. I remember when Paul Stastny's goal that wasn't immediately thought to be in, at least by the officials, when the official pointed to center ice stating that it was a goal after review. This place just exploded, and I remember the decibel level going up to about 115. Don't remember looking up any other time. I'm sure it got a lot louder, especially when Dustin Byfuglien tied it at 3 on that sizzling pass from Patrik Laine. But what an atmosphere, and Jets fans keep elevating their game as the playoffs wear on. So it's kudos to you guys who have been inside this building, and certainly Jets fans across this country and North America who've been watching us here on the Jets TV Live pregame show and the postgame show. Our numbers are showing, and we really appreciate you guys tuning in. There's another game besides this one. I know all attention is here in Winnipeg, but the Washington Capitals and Pittsburgh Penguins will play Game 4 of their series tonight. That will start at 6 p.m. That is, yes, a local time. So the Capitals lead that series 2-1. Of course, Alexander Ovechkin getting the winning goal the other night for the Caps, who have a series lead over top of the defending Stanley Cup champion, the 2-time Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins. The Jets and Preds getting underway here at 8:30. Not the greatest of times, especially since we've all been spoiled with the early start times in the opening round series against the Minnesota Wild, but 8:30 is the reality tonight. But I'm sure Jets fans will be okay if this one results in a win. And it's Friday tomorrow. Do we really have to give our best on Friday, especially if watching a Stanley Cup playoff game of a magnitude of this series between the Jets and the Nashville Predators? Still taking a look around the players on the ice still right now. Matthew Perreault out there, Dmitry Kulikov. Again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Kulikov in red, not the non-contact yellow jersey that he's been wearing for quite some time. And of course has been out of the lineup for quite some time. Matthew Perreault is out in a blue jersey, as is Joel Armia. So we are waiting to hear from one more member of the Winnipeg Jets inside the Jets dressing room, and then the Mitchell Clinton and Tyler Escovel will head to the Matt Frost Media Center to hear from Paul Maurice to see if there will be any lineup changes. But having said that, I am certain that we won't get the full details on who will be in the lineup if there is any changes at all ahead of this very important Game 4 of this series between the Jets and Predators. Games last night in the National Hockey League Stanley Cup playoffs. A fantastic bounce back effort from the San Jose Sharks as that incredible story known as the Vegas Golden Knights continues to roll on these playoffs, but that series is now tied at 2. Martin Jones, a tremendous effort in goal. I watched that game from start to finish, and he was just excellent against the Golden Knights. So that series is now tied at 2 games apiece. And of course, earlier in the night, the Tampa Bay Lightning taking a 2-1 series lead, beating the Bruins in Boston. So the Lightning have taken back home ice advantage from the Boston Bruins. So the Lightning lead that series 2-1. And there's a good stat out there right now to keep in mind for the Jets. When a series is tied at 1-1, as it was the other day, the winner of Game 3 holds an all-time series record of 207 wins, 100 losses. That's a percentage of 67.4%. Gene Principe from Sportsnet joined us a little bit earlier here on the pregame show. He just had that feeling whoever wins tonight will win the series. And you can certainly point to that if the Jets do have a 3-1 series lead. They got to go back to Nashville for Game 5 on Saturday, and then of course Game 6 will be right back here if necessary at Bell MTS Place. So Martin Jones made 34 saves last night. Logan Couture had a couple assists. Sharks won Game 4 on home ice, tie their series with the Golden Knights. That series now shifts back to Vegas for Game 5. Jones, that was his 22nd career playoff win. Very good for a very young goaltender who started with the Calgary Hitmen of the Western Hockey League in his junior career. Rookies are really racking up the goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just got a tweet coming in from Pierre Lebrun of The Athletic. He says that Joel Armia said he will play tonight in Game 5. What an addition that's going to be for the Winnipeg Jets. There's no denying a former first-round pick, the talent that Joel Armia has, and the chemistry that he has with Adam Lowry and Andrew Kopp. So it'll be interesting to see how that lineup turns out. If he says he's in, it sounds like he will be playing, so that's great news for the Jets to have any of the walking wounded back in their lineup. Mark Scheifele had his 4-game goal-scoring streak come to an end the other night, but still had a very productive game offensively, had a couple of assists. Let's hear from the Jets forward right now, back in the Jets dressing room.
I'm a guy that would do that for anyone on our team, too.
Blake said he was a little bit mad at you at first following the game when you saw you jump in to get the penalty there to make it 4-4, but Obviously, you're a little excited after you guys scored from the box. We could tell.
Oh yeah, obviously. Like the boys did an awesome job in 4-on-4, and was a big part of turning that game around.
This get treated as just another game versus either 3-1 or 2-2.
It's just another game, you know. Obviously, you know, we want to win every game. It's not always going to go our way, but it's another chance to, you know, take a pretty good stronghold on this series. So it's a big game at home, and you know, we're going to be ready. We know the fans are going to be excited, and we know it's going to be another tough test.
There's Mark Scheifele of the Winnipeg Jets, leads the teams with goals so far in these playoffs with 8 goals, got 4 assists for 12 points. He leads all Jets point getters so far in these Stanley Cup playoffs. Blake Wheeler and Dustin Byfuglien both with 3 goals and 7 assists for 10 points, tied for second for the Winnipeg Jets thus far. Joel Armia, we mentioned him saying he was playing tonight. If you didn't believe me, here's the proof. Here's Joel Armia.
I just try to play my game, just work hard, and be good on a PK, and yeah, just work hard. I think that's my main focus tonight.
So tough to tell on the replay. I mean, did the shot hit you, or did it hit your stick in game 5?
Hit my wrist.
Hit your wrist, yeah.
Yep.
Was that what kept you out of the lineup, or was it something else?
No.
Are you back on the line with Brian and Matthew?
Not sure.
Yeah?
I'm not
Oh,
sure.
you're not sure?
No.
Yeah.
Did it make it especially tough for you to go out right after you'd scored that big goal and have to not be a part of it for the rest of the game?
I mean, like I said, obviously you want to just play, and yeah. So yeah, it was tough.
Good to hear from Jets forward Joel Armia, who has a goal in these Stanley Cup playoffs. He's had 5 games as a +1 so far. I wondered when that shot from Dustin Byfuglien went off of Joel Armia and into the net behind Devin Dubnyk of the Minnesota Wild, if that was indeed that hurt him. But Armia, the Jets forward, confirming that was not what the basis of the injury was. So it sounds like he's good to go tonight, and continue to look outside. I don't know if there'll be any other are out in the rink right now. The Jets still practicing up a little bit. Looking on the players that still remain on the ice, Matthew Perreault and Dmitry Kulikov are amongst the guys still skating, so a strong possibility those two will not be in the lineup tonight for Game 4 against the Nashville Predators. So many things to lean on right now. You have to wonder the response from the Nashville Predators. I think the Jets played a much better game in Game 2. Didn't come out on the right side of the scoreboard, but the Predators did get that win in overtime, in double overtime. 5-4 was the final there. You have to wonder how hard they're going to come out in this period, but maybe you'd have to think the Jets a little bit in their head, considering how well Nashville played in that first period. It was really quiet in here, but not that quiet. The Jets kind of took some momentum back with some strong shifts to close out the opening period, and then really brought it on in the second period. A second period for the ages. You'll never forget being a part of that one. I don't think Jets fans will forget that anytime soon, as the Jets went on to win that one 7-4, 3 players with 3 points. And then not enough, I think, has been said about Connor Hellebuck's performance after giving up those 3 first period goals. And it may be the second one he'd like to have back, but you look at the save he made on Victor Arvidsson in the third period. It was a breakaway for the very dangerous Predator forward. It was tied at 4. Hellebuck makes that big glove save, and the players had said it was almost like they scored a goal. That was the reaction was like on the Jets bench after Hellebuck made that save. So great bounce back effort from him in that game. Not so much bouncing back from a loss in game number 2, but enough cannot be said about Hellebuck's glove save and Arvidsson that allowed the Jets, of course, to score a little bit later on the power play, courtesy of Blake Wheeler, and then a couple of empty net goals from Wheeler and I should not be forgetting this right now because he's been so good, but Brandon Tanev, who has goals in 4 straight games for the Jets. Adam Lowry has just finished talking to the media. Let's hear from him right now.
Trying to create battles down low, and I struggled, especially the first 2 games in the face-off circle, and sometimes when face-offs aren't going your way, you start to get frustrated in the rest of your game. So, hopefully those continue to improve, and my game continues to improve tonight.
I asked about the being in the dot, and your numbers aren't all that bad, but I mean you want them higher, and I mean your team is about puck possession, and you want the puck at all times, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think the first 2 games I was awful in the circle, so. But they're a real good face-off team over there, so you have to give them some credit. I think as the series goes along, there's going to be some adjustments made in the circle, and you know, I think we were able to kind of bounce back game 3. We were a lot better, you know, and that bodes well for us. I think, you know, our game is puck possession, and you know, if you can win a lot of D-zone draws, you don't have to spend as much time in your D-zone. So, you know, we're going to look to continue to improve in that area as well.
Jets forward Adam Lowry, a big part of leading into one of the power plays the Jets got late in the third period. Of course, he came in on the forecheck and pressured Pekka Rinne, got his, you know, kind of hacked at him a little bit, and Rinne reacted with a slash in return. And of course, he gets the retaliation penalty. So Adam Lowry, a physical presence in game number 3 of this series. The Jets fired 45 shots at Nashville's net in game 3, had 50 shots in game 2's double overtime game. So in 8 playoff games, the Jets are averaging 35.4 shots per game, third behind Nashville, who's close to 37 shots per game, and San Jose's firing almost 36 shots per game. Now, despite the shooting gallery, the Jets are 3-2 when out shooting their opponent in the playoffs, and 3-0 when being outshot. So go figure on that one. Winnipeg is allowing 30.6 shots against during the playoffs, which is the 3rd fewest in the National Hockey League. Still waiting to see when Paul Maurice will be coming up to answer questions about the lineup. Again, Dmitry Kulikov and Matthew Perreault staying out late on the ice during Jets morning skate here. So if I had to guess right now, it doesn't sound like those 2 players will take part of game 4 tonight. Dustin Byfuglien scored twice, had an assist in game 3 for his 2nd consecutive multi-point game. We will touch on Dustin Byfuglien a little bit later, but let's hear from the Jets head coach Paul Maurice.
Paul, Joel Armia says he's in tonight. What have you missed without him in the lineup, and what do you get back?
Joel's fine. What he does well when he's in the lineup is he plays a defensive game with some offensive skills. So his positioning has always been very good. We've always thought Joel had a real good defensive stick. But he's got a wrist shot, and he's got an ability to move the puck around. If you'd seen our team play and only watched us play against Dallas, you'd think he was a 50-goal scorer. So there's some high-end goals that he scores. So he has that offensive ability. Doesn't have to cheat for it. Probably doesn't look for it as much as we'd like him to. We think there's more there with his game, but we know we can always rely on real smart positioning.
Is this the best you've seen Tyler Myers play for a stretch here?
He was usually a very consistent player. He had an unusual couple of years. He missed a year basically of hockey and then came back. I would say maybe that it's the most balanced that he's played. That Tyler and at times over the last few years, again with injuries, we've run him against the other team's best, and he's taken on a real kind of defense-first mindset. And then there have been games where he would get up into plays and be really dynamic with that and make plays at the offensive line one-on-one against a forechecker. What he's doing right now has a real nice balance between the two. He's been strong in his own end and real simple in terms of the quickness of the decisions that he made. But he has that ability to, he can pull a puck off the wall to the middle of the ice without moving his feet. So he has this great range up top, and that can be a challenge if you're defending him.
Raise the ire of the fans and the opposition somewhat, and yet he's also such a generous person off the ice, nominated for the King Clancy Award. I was wondering if you could say why you think he would be a polarizing figure.
Anybody that has the puck as much as he does, anybody that's a dominant player in the game, is physical, is not going to be loved by the opposing team's net. They all are. If they're not wearing gold, they are all available.
Go ahead, Joe.
I can hear you. You don't have to have a mic.
Just going to talk about Adam Lowry's contribution so far in the playoffs. He admitted just now he hasn't been thrilled with his work in the dot, but he's maybe just comment on the role he's had through 8 games.
Well, his last game was his best game. He had played some games very strong early in the mini-series, and then this last game, maybe an adjustment with Brian on the wing, but I liked his last game an awful lot. He's a big physical guy. What makes them a strong line is they can be a checking line that doesn't necessarily play in their end of the ice. And it's not about just real good defensive reads and D-zone coverage when they're on their game. And you've seen us use all different kinds of wingers in that on his flanks. You know, he's a straight line kind of offensive guy. There's not a lot of toe dragging in his game, but he can make some plays, some short area plays, but he'll get in and get on that forecheck, recover real good, great range. And I thought his last game was his best.
He says the pressure's off him to score because he's got the sniper on his wing now. But he, you know,
he knows where to pass the puck, right? Everybody knows it goes to the left.
He's a fixture beside whatever goaltender he's playing on in every end of every whistle. I mean, is that his wheelhouse right there up against the post, right in the crease?
Well, it is at both ends of the ice, actually. When you play against the other team's best, that's usually at some point where you end up as a net front. And he's a, you know, we've got some size on the back end. When he's out there, you're going to have at least 2 very large men on the ice in front of your net, so you've got some coverage there. And part of what has made their line effective is they have a pretty strong idea of where they want the puck to go and where it's going to end up in the offensive zone. They're not looking for seams. They're not running a lot of crossing patterns. They're straight line, puck to the net, reload, you know, get back on it.
If guys are becoming available like Armia, I'm okay.
People in the back are pissed.
Becoming available, without asking you who and when, do you have a coaching sort of protocol about putting too many changes in your lineup? Do you like not to make too many at one time? How do you work that?
Fewest changes possible. And when you have an injury during the year, you don't want to have to move 4 lines to fix 1 hole. So that would be almost, that I do believe in. To start anyway, make the fewest changes possible, assuming you like what you're doing. And then after that, you want to make sure you've got enough healthy bodies that you're sure of in the lineup on every given night. And most of it then is after that, which seems, I mean, performance is still the key piece. If you like your way your group's playing, not afraid to change the lineup after wins or feel necessarily the need to change the lineup after a loss to change the room. I don't feel with this group that has an impact.
Is Lowry Cup Tanev kind of in a perfect world with your personnel? Is that your favorite shutdown combo? Is that where you'd like to be?
No, I'd like a real even split between them and Scheif. I'd like a real balance like there, and you'll see it. I think you saw it last game. You'll see it tonight. There's a certain amount of production that we can hope for with the Lowry line, but I don't want to have to play him 22 minutes. And I don't want Stastny's line, you know, playing 9 because of it. So there's a balance there, and you have to have another line. You get out on the road. The Scheif's the guy that takes that other role. So I don't chase it too hard. Again, the first thing we want is a certain amount of flow off our bench that we're getting our players on the ice.
But you like those 3, right? The Lowry Cup Tanev.
No, I've really liked Brian there as well. Yeah. Really, Brian Little, for me, has been a top performer all of these playoffs. Maybe a little bit unnoticed, but and I've moved him all different positions and different roles, and he's been very, very good. So I like where it's going now.
Paul, there's so much talk about Nashville's defense core going into the series. How do you think your blue line has performed, and did they see it as a challenge to try to match or play better than them?
I think our group, our blue line has gotten better in each game. We spent an awful lot of time working on our D-zone coverage in Game 1. Put a lot of stress on them, but I thought they handled that very, very well. I'm comfortable with the way they're playing. We're starting to see some of our guys' best games. We really like where Dustin's at. I think Trouba last game was a guy that I didn't talk about or wasn't asked about, which surprised me a little bit. I thought he was very, very good in Game 3. Maurice we don't talk about because it's just the same game every night, and Tyler Myers has played well. And Ben Sherratt kind of in and out early in the playoffs has gotten to a real nice, clean, physical, hard game, so we're good there.
Paul, just with the 25 goals through 3 games, are we likely to see any 2-1 games in this series?
We could see a 2-1 game, but I'm not sure that the shot totals are going to change a whole lot. That'll be on the goalies. They're both capable, but I think the offense is going to be there.
After playing this Predators team 8 times now, what have you noticed about their ability to rise to the occasion?
They have a very, very strong belief system going back to, go from an 8th seed last year to the final, to dominating the league this year in the way they did. They have a very strong belief system that they're going to win. And that's an important part of this, because you take your lumps like we did after Game 2, and I'm sure they felt they let one slip away after Game 3. That belief system gets tested. We expect their very best tonight. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Jets TV Live pregame show. Mitchell Clinton from Jets TV, reporter extraordinaire, has decided to step in here after going into the Jets dressing room, talking to the players, hearing from Paul Maurice. The most notable thing today, Mitch, was I don't think this year once have I ever seen 3 players
yeah.
become available on one day. Am I wrong on that one?
Yeah, no, I think that's the first one that I remember. Obviously, interesting to see. I mean, you kind of expected Matthew Perreault, Joel Armia, just given how the last couple of days have gone and shedding non-contact jerseys. But to see Dmitry Kulikov come out in a regular defenseman jersey was definitely a little bit of a surprise. And Maurice, true to form since the start of the playoffs, basically saying, hey, if they're not in gold, they're available. So we'll kind of see how the lineup shakes up tonight.
He kind of says they can play, but we're not going to tell you if they're going to play, essentially, with
Basically,
that statement.
yeah.
I really like what he said about Joel Armia, what he was asked about what he was missing without Joel in the lineup. He's got a great defensive game with offensive skill.
Yeah, then even a little more offense is there. I mean, the one goal that stands out to me this season is the shorthanded goal he scored against Columbus in this very building.
October 17th, that's right. Yeah.
Nice.
No, thank you.
Yeah, basically just goes down the ice, toe drags, goes top corner. Like, it was an amazing goal and what ended up being a losing cause for the Winnipeg Jets that night. But it's just a glimpse into the skill that Joel Armia does possess offensively. But, I mean, you can't talk about Armia without talking defense, because that's where he plays so well. He spent some time on the wing with Adam Lowry in a shutdown role, so it's all these things that he's familiar with doing, and obviously would be a big boost to the Winnipeg Jets if he does come into the lineup. It's just a guy that can help you at both ends of the ice, and during the Stanley Cup playoffs, you need as much as that as you can.
You wouldn't think he would be going the third line with Lowry, right? Because Brian Little, of course, has done such a great job on the wing, and that's another player. I mean, I mentioned Blake Wheeler's got a 6-game point streak, but it's been overlooked because of how well Dustin Byfuglien's playing, how great Mark Scheifele is playing, but I think maybe more of the unsung hero right now for the Jets has been Brian Little.
Well, he's been playing fantastic throughout the entire playoffs, and head coach Paul Maurice just talked about it. It's a guy that, I mean, he's gone under the radar pretty frequently, not even just this year, but in previous years. He's a guy that just goes out there and does his job and does it very well. And he's done everything from matchup against the other team's best in some seasons to this season playing a little bit further down the lineup, but still having a massive role. I mean, he played center between Nikolai Ehlers and Patrik Laine at one point this year. And like you said, and as we've seen in the playoffs, he's played on the wing with Adam Lowry and has looked fantastic there. And that line has done some great things for the Winnipeg Jets. So obviously, you talk a lot throughout the year about the versatility that a lot of these players have, guys going from the wing to center. For Brian Little, it's the exact opposite, going from center to the wing, which he says maybe not a massive adjustment, but I mean, I think for any player to be able to switch positions, it makes you very valuable to your team, and that's exactly what Brian Little is to this Winnipeg Jets team.
Well, that's what Paul Maurice has talked about significantly throughout this year, is having those players that can play both wing and center. Gone are the days where you're just specifically a center or playing on your right side or your offside on the wing. Those are certainly out of the way. You have to be more versatile to play in the National Hockey League now. The Nashville Predators on the ice for a morning skate. Looks like it'll be a fully attended morning skate for the Preds. If you look ahead to Game 4, which is what we're going to do right now, Nashville's been very good in the first period of every single game of this series. You'd like to think the momentum is on Winnipeg's side, but I've seen too many times where Nashville has changed that momentum very quickly within the game.
Yeah, and Josh Morrissey kind of mentioned yesterday that momentum is something that the team talks about not really being a factor in the playoffs, especially game to game. In game, certainly. You saw the second period yesterday, how one goal just all of a sudden, boom, the Winnipeg Jets had that momentum and they carried it throughout basically the rest of the hockey game. But game to game, they're very careful about thinking that way, about taking momentum and assuming it'll carry over. Every game is a brand new challenge for both teams. And you talked about the starts that the Nashville Predators have had. They've scored the opening goal in 2 of the last 3 games, just leading into the fact that that you talked about there. And the Jets also know that this Predators team, a lot of it is the very same team that went from that 8th seed last season all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So the belief system in that room, as Paul Maurice likes to say, is there. So you can only expect Nashville's best tonight in a game that you know that they want to win to even this series up and head back to Bridgestone Arena.
Paul Maurice wanted no part of any questioning about or talking about PK Subban, did he?
No, I think it's just a matter of, I mean, it's another team's player. He doesn't often say too much about him. And obviously PK Subban plays a huge role for the Nashville Predators. He's a guy that often is right up there in terms of ice time. He's part of that big four that they have on the blue line. And it's been interesting to kind of hear some of the questions that Jets defensemen have faced the last, I would say, since the start of the series, of whether they're trying to play up to the level of the Nashville's blue line. And every single time that Tyler Myers has been asked about it, he said, well, it's not really at the forefront of our minds. Obviously, Dustin Byfuglien's playing a massive role. Jacob Trouba, head coach Paul Maurice said he was surprised that Jacob Trouba wasn't asked about after the last game and the performance that he had. So I don't think there's a whole lot of, for the Jets blue line anyways, talk about trying to match the Nashville blue line. But at this point, it's all about wins, and that's basically the thing that the Jets have been focused on.
Have you noticed the Jets defensemen jumping up in the play a lot more in this series than, say, against Minnesota?
Perhaps, but I think it's because they've been in a little bit more of a chasing situation a little bit more often. They've been trying to get back into games, and I think that's what... But the activation of the Jets' blue line is something that makes them so good. And they talked about how the importance going into this series was going to be Jets activating, holding that blue line, and the forwards getting back and beating the Nashville defensemen up the ice if anything should happen. The defensemen have to have the trust in the forwards to have that cover, but at the same time, the forwards got to have the trust in the defensemen, and that's something that I think has been cultivated throughout the entire season. And when the Winnipeg Jets are playing their best game, you always hear them talk about a hard gap, and that gap also exists between the Jets defensemen and the Nashville forwards. It's something that you have to be able to put pressure on the opposition to be able to force the mistakes that we've seen kind of throughout the series.
There was one tiny mistake made in the third period when the game was tied at 4-4, and that allowed Victor Arvidsson to go in on the breakaway. Talking to the players and Paul Maurice the last couple of days, maybe that was one of the more understated moments of game number 3. It was the save that Connor Hellebuck made on Victor Arvidsson. What have you heard from the players and Paul Maurice the last couple of days? Were they, and I've heard them touch on it, but what have you thought of those comments?
Oh, they've been on point. I mean, Paul Maurice was asked whether he thought about pulling Hellebuck after the first period. He said it didn't really cross his mind because the game can go two ways at that point. Number one, you can put Connor Hellebuck back in there to start the second period, and if Nashville continues to extend the lead, well, you take him out and you get him ready for what would be game 4. But if it does go the other way, which it ended up doing, where the Jets get back into the game, tie the game, take the lead, and then you get yourself back into a tie game situation, and Connor Hellebuck, through his play this year, has earned the right to have that chance to make that stop. And it was interesting to hear Hellebuck kind of talk about it yesterday, where in his mind, he maybe wasn't thinking about it at the time, but you know kind of how the game is going. You know this is a big moment in the game, and you see Victor Arvidsson coming down, who led the Nashville Predators in the regular season in points. Connor Hellebuck just kind of said it was time for him to make a save, and he has that confidence in his ability to do that. And obviously, I mean, he makes that save. The crowd obviously goes crazy, but what was interesting was the Jets bench almost acted like a goal was scored. That's kind of how big, and they knew it too. They knew how big that stop was.
Appreciate the time, Mitch. Speaking of guys that have led their team in scoring, I'm sure Dale Hawerchuk did it a couple of times here as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, I had the pleasure of sitting down with a Hockey Hall of Famer this morning. Here is a portion of that conversation.
How about Dustin Byfuglien? What a unique player he is at 260 pounds, playing at defense, activating all the time, constantly up on the rush. What do you enjoy watching Dustin Byfuglien?
Yeah, he reminds me of one of those guys that he's kind of like a glue guy in the room, you know, can keep him loose, you know, but when it's time to go, let's go. Like he's got such a great attitude, and you need guys like that in the room. And of course, you know, he's a great hockey player as well, and he uses his size. It's very effective. But I think more than anything, just the way he is, it just calms everybody down off the ice, and then on the ice the way he is, that just fires everybody up.
craziness of the last game and thinking at one point maybe you could win and then not having that happen and now getting sent for overtime?
Yeah, just excited for Game 4. Get back at it, and just getting back on the ice and playing another game, getting that out of our mind, and yeah, excited for tonight.
What's the biggest thing that your club has maybe learned, even in round one, losing the first game in Denver and the big run that this group had a year ago, to managing the ups and downs of playoffs?
Yeah, group here went deep last year, we went to the third round last year where I was, so you just kind of maintain an even keel, and there's going to be lots of ups and downs and in different shapes and forms, but just getting through it and getting ready for the next opportunity. We've had ups and downs. We got to play better. You know, we have to play better consistently, and have to be a lot better.
You got to take every opportunity you get. So that's a big part of it. Yep.
On that note, what's that like to battle some of those bigger guys like Buff, etc., when you're not the biggest guy yourself?
Well, I try to just stay pretty low and try to keep my leverage pretty low so I can still stand there, but I don't really think about it. If they wanna battle me in front, that's fine. It just gives my teammates more time and stuff like that. But I just try to be in front of the goalie size. That's my main goal.
Yeah, take a look at the 3 games. We've seen a little bit of everything so far. What can we expect here tonight, in your opinion?
Well, they're gonna want to go up 3-1 for sure, and we want to tie it up. We need to win one here in Winnipeg to get home ice back, and that's our goal, to win one game, and we gotta be focused, and for sure the crowd is gonna be a factor too. They were a factor last game, so we gotta try to play good defensive hockey.
Is there one difference specifically from maybe the first period to the final 2 that either you guys were doing and didn't do, or they were able to switch?
I don't know. We got into penalty trouble last game. I feel like that 4-on-4, we didn't do a really good job of defending well, and they scored 2 quick goals. So that kind of gave them big momentum in the second period, and I think we battled back in the third and played a good third period and tied it up. And I myself had a breakaway to put it up 5-4, and I missed. So I think we gave ourselves a chance to win at least, but we didn't seal the deal.
I'll start. We all sort of used to think that if a goalie let in 4, he couldn't have played very well. But certainly in this series and in these playoffs, there's guys playing real well letting in 4 and 5 sometimes.
Yeah.
Change maybe the perspective on goaltending as goal scorers improve?
I think you can probably look at it, you know, relative to the actual goals that are going in the net, whether they're stoppable or not stoppable. You know, all the goals that Winnipeg scored, they were tough situations. There were a redirect off of a stick with the screen. There was a kick puck. There was a couple of backdoor plays, a backdoor pass, a backdoor off of a rebound. And then there's a lot of huge saves that our goaltender made as well. So it's hard to fault him on some of the things that, you know, you feel like if you could have boxed out maybe and tied up that stick, then there wouldn't have been a redirect or even a screen. So that's more on us than it is a goaltender. But I don't think you can just paint it with one stroke of the brush and say that this is the way it is. But certainly, you know, we feel like we could have done some things better in front of him.
Kyle was talking about needing to be more physical. What do you want to see from him in that line?
Yeah, I mean, I think that line is capable of contributing more. I think Kyle probably said it best with you. I didn't hear his actual words, but physicality and speed. You know, we always talk about speed and attitude inside the room, and that's always I think those are important ingredients when it comes to being successful on the ice.
Else? Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
That'll about do it for the Jets TV Live pregame show. A lot is on the line, as there always is at this time of year. It is May. It is the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Jets have the chance to take a 3-1 series lead with a victory tonight over top of the Nashville Predators. Of course, leading this 2-1 and having won 13 straight games here at Bell MTS Place. On behalf of Gene Principe, Steve Mason, and Mitchell Clinton, I'm Jamie Thomas. Thanks so much for watching the Jets TV Live pregame show. Enjoy Game 4. Enjoy your day. And we'll see you tonight after the game for the Jets TV Live postgame show.